Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Russell Dude YouTube channel, and welcome back to another casual movie review. This time for Matt Reeves' The Batman, as I am accompanied here by my new DC Multiverse figures for Catwoman for the Batman, and standing already in the background from a previous episode of my Collection Corner series, we have the Riddler. So for this video, I mean, the title basically says it, like, I really enjoyed the Batman. So I'm just gonna tell you guys what I really enjoyed about it, and I'll be honest. When this movie first got announced, I didn't think too much of it, just because I'm more of a Marvel fan in terms of like the movies. I've only ever really liked maybe like one or two DC Universe movies in the past, but the first trailer for this movie really did hook me in. I was really excited for it. And I was trying my hardest to stay away from any sort of like promotional material or anything like that, aside from maybe like a trailer or two. And then like leading up to this, I started dipping my head in more and more and finding out about all these like cipher things that are like tied to the movies and stuff like that. And then finally, it actually came out pretty well that I actually had the day off of work, the day of opening day for the Batman, so I ended up going with me and my brother. And let me just say, this was well worth the wait. This was supposed to come out, I think, in 2021, like Halloween of 2021, which honestly, um, it kind of would have been cooler if it was back then. Obviously, it means we would have gotten to see it a lot earlier. But another reason why I think it would have been really cool for it to come out around then is because like the start of this movie starts around Halloween. And then I think it like ends within like a week. I think that like the last date that Batman talks about at the end of the movie is November 6th. So Halloween, and then yeah, leading up to November 6th. So this isn't just like a one night thing for the Batman. This is like several days. It's like an entire week, I think, of content going on here, which very fun content, very awesome. So the movie opens with actually it puts us in the perspective of the Riddler, and it gave us a really cool like audio cue whenever you can expect the Riddler. It's like his like long heavy breathing, which I think sounds pretty cool. Whenever I heard it, like whenever they put us in the POV of the Riddler, you know, like hiding in the back of the car or staring through, looking at the guy through the window, I thought that was a really cool audio cue for every time you hear his long breathing, then you know, like, oh shit, it's the Riddler. I kind of got the feeling of like the shark from Jaws, you know, whenever you hear the music, like da dun da dun. But instead, here it's every time you hear the long breath, you can expect the Riddler. Anyways, we got to our first introduction of Batman with some voiceover as he writes down in his journal. And I feel like the way they introduced Batman was really fucking cool just because, like, right off the bat they make him so like mysterious, and they kind of set up that like it's not just that he can be around to stop you, it's that once you see that symbol up in the sky, and if you're doing something shady or shitty in the middle of the night, there's no telling if he's going to be coming after you. He could be hiding in the shadows just waiting to jump out at you, as we saw the couple examples given at the beginning of the movie. And we get to the scene where he fights all the guys in the subway, which was pretty damn awesome. And the way that they kind of lingered on the black kid as part of the gang that like didn't want to beat up the guy, I thought that was interesting because I don't know, maybe they might bring back that actor. I don't know if he's ever done any more stuff, but the way that they were setting it up, like the way the kid like stopped the guy from using the gun, obviously he didn't want to beat up the one guy that the crew told him to. My mind instantly makes me think, well, what if they're secretly setting up that guy to be like a future Robin? I feel like that could be kind of cool. And I know there's going to be people out there like, oh, they're only making Robin black to seem cool. It's like, No, that just sounds cool. It's the same thing with freaking Catwoman or with Jim Gordon. Like, I don't care what race they are, just as long as they're really good actors. And from this movie, they were all really fucking good actors. And that's saying something about what would seemingly just be an extra. That guy that I want to see become Robin did such a really good job portraying in that opening scene. But yes, that opening scene with Batman fighting the guys down in the subway was fucking excellent. And yeah, it continues on throughout the rest of the movie. Lots of really great scenes and lots of interesting setups every now and then, especially with like the drops. Like that was a thing that showed up in this movie. Like they never explain like really like where they came from, how they started. They just kind of say like the drops are in the city. They're causing problems, and there are these people that are selling them. That's pretty much all we got in terms of the drops. We don't know who's like the main person behind pushing the drops or who created the drops. Although at the beginning of the movie, when they go through that montage of all the thugs like being afraid maybe Batman's after them, there was a really cool like Mr. Drop mask that I thought looked really fucking awesome. I've seen rumors of people thinking maybe it's Scarecrow or the Joker, which I mean we'll get onto maybe some of those things later. But yeah, later on in the movie was when Batman starts to really get into the detective work of all this, and I think this is what I really, really loved about this movie was that it was basically just a detective movie with Batman in it. And I honestly can't think of the last like live action Batman movie where there was a lot of like detective work. Um I don't know. It just kind of seems like there's been quite a few Batman movies where really the basic plot is there's a bad guy in the city that's doing some bad stuff. Let's try to stop him. But like, there's not really a lot of like detective stuff. Like one of my favorite, my number one favorite Batman movie, The Dark Knight, does have a good balance of like detective work versus like let's just stop the bad guy, stuff like that. But this one is full on just a ton of detective work, and they really hit it home like towards the very beginning of the film when he's in the crime scene area. He's looking over things, he's like solving the riddles and everything. He goes back to the Batcave, he's like looking through the cipher with Alfred. He has these cool ass fucking contact things that basically record everything that he sees, which is pretty cool. And it comes back into play with Zoe Kravitz, Catwoman, later on, how she contacts him. Um, and the way they introduced Zoe Kravitz in this Catwoman, I think, was a really good job too. Just having her working in the Iceberg Lounge for the Penguin, which I will say, there wasn't a lot of Penguin in this movie, but it seems like the ending kind of sets him up to be something bigger, maybe in a sequel. I'm pretty sure they're doing some sort of spin-off series too. I don't know how I really feel about that, but to each their own. If you're excited for it, good for you. But yeah, I thought it was brilliant how they set her up just being a worker in the Penguin's Iceberg Lounge, and she just happens to walk in on a meeting with Penguin and Batman discussing stuff in the case. Again, coming back to that whole detective stuff, I thought that that was the strongest point of this movie was having Batman be the detective, the world's greatest detective that everybody knows him as, and I'm very happy that they really pulled with those strengths in this movie. I will say this wasn't a negative for me, but I was seeing it from a lot of people. A lot of people said that they didn't really like his portray or the portray of Bruce Wayne in this movie, just having him sort of be like an emo, like Bruce Wayne compared to like Bruce Wayne's of the past. And I'll be honest, I don't have a problem with it at all, simply because this Batman is only in year two of being Batman, and we know that from obviously the director talking about it, and also from like the logbooks talking about it being year two. So I don't really have a problem with Batman or Bruce Wayne just being a little bit emo or being like a little bit of a loner. He's obviously kept to himself for a long, long time. Obviously, he's just starting to be Batman, so he's been focusing for a long time on trying to prepare himself to be Batman. And obviously, in that time, you don't really have a lot of time to prepare yourself to pretend to be Bruce Wayne. So odds are, I feel like maybe like in some of the sequel movies, maybe he's going to be a little bit better at trying to hide the persona of Batman versus Bruce Wayne, because to be honest, really the only difference between Batman and Bruce Wayne is the outfit. Like, I feel like Bruce Wayne and Batman still act fairly similar. They sort of talk similar and kind of act similar, just kind of staring around at people randomly. I feel like maybe like in one of the sequel movies, maybe Bruce Wayne will start to act a little bit more like Bruce Wayne's of the past. But you know, even if they do keep him sort of as this more like grittier, like grungy emo, as people are calling it, Bruce Wayne, I'd be fine with that too. You know, it's always fun to have something a little bit different. You know, maybe a emo Bruce Wayne would do good. I mean, obviously it might sell a lot of stuff at Hot Topic, so who knows? But what else do I want to talk about? There's a lot of really good stuff in this. Edward Nashton's The Riddler, I thought was fucking awesome. When they revealed that Riddler was going to be the villain, I was interested right off the bat, especially with the way that they were doing it. Wasn't just, you know, riddle me this, riddle me that, Jim Carrey type of Riddler. It was a Zodiac killer type of Riddler, so he would leave the Zodiac style like letters and everything, which I thought was very interesting. Like with all the cards, the Hallmark type cards that were being bought. At one point, I did think like, couldn't they just contact like the nearest like card store, the nearest Hallmark store, and ask like, "Hey, has anybody been buying any of these cards lately?" Like, "Oh yeah, this one guy, Edward. Yeah, he's at the cafe right now." But yeah, the cards were a very nice touch, and how he tells the riddles, I think they were great. And I think they didn't make them so easy for Batman to figure out. Some of them were a little bit harder. There was the one that Alfred helped translate into Spanish that even Penguin revealed was wrong Spanish, messed up a word. So even the greatest detective got something wrong. So that even leads the story into another interesting direction. And there was just so much stuff. It's kind of hard to really dive in, especially after only seeing the movie once. But there's so much great stuff that they've set up, like right off the bat with this movie, like the world of Gotham, how the police interact with Batman, how the criminals interact with Batman, future Batman villains, and I guess a sidekick in the form of Catwoman, depending on if she comes back. Obviously, at the end of the movie, she teases that she's probably going to be moving out of the city to Bloodhaven, which is a nice little tease for the area that Nightwing looks over in the DC universe, or at least in the Gotham DC side of the universe. But yeah, there's a lot of really great stuff, and they have an interesting third act where Riddler gets caught. Like, I mean, we saw that in promo footage and in trailers. He gets caught and he gets taken into jail, and oh my god, this was such a great fucking moment. Um, where they kidnap Riddler and then Batman starts looking around Riddler's house and like seeing all these like posters saying like I know who the real you are and stuff like that, and he's trying to think like, oh shit, Riddler knows who I am. Like this is gonna be the end of the Batman. And he goes to see Riddler, and like Riddler just starts naming off Bruce Wayne, like teasing him a bit about it. And the entire time I'm thinking, Batman's asshole has to be puckered and clenched up so hard right now, and he's probably so afraid because it's like, oh shit, Riddler knows who I am. And then all of a sudden, Riddler says like, "We nearly got Bruce Wayne, didn't we?" And then Batman's just like, oh, thank goodness. Okay, yeah, he doesn't know I am. Thank goodness. That was such a great scene, like teasing, like, I know who you are, you know, style like that. And then obviously the dams break, and Batman, instead of having like this crazy third act of like Batman fighting the Riddler, he instead just fights Riddler's like compadres, his buddies, his followers, who are also dressed up as Riddler. And honestly, it's not really an easy fight for him. I mean, Catwoman has to get involved. Batman nearly like fucking dies. He has to give himself like a shot of like some sort of like morphine or something like that, which sends him fucking crazy. And then after that, like, yeah, he defeats the guys. The city is flooded, but the finale of the movie is just Batman, you know, helping people. You know, he's just helping people out of a flood. It's not some crazy third act, you know, CGI fight with like the main villain with like a ton of like crazy awesome moments with it. There's just like this cathartic moment of Batman saying like, I just need to help people. I just need to be there for people and to help them when they don't have anybody to help them. And I think that's cool. Now let's get to maybe my most interested scene coming out of this movie, which was a scene where we cut back to the Riddler in jail, and all of a sudden there's an inmate that starts talking to him from a couple doors away. And then all of a sudden, this unseen inmate, as they're credited in the credits, this unseen Arkham inmate starts talking about how this city, yada yada yada, and then he mentions the word clown. And then he starts doing this interesting laugh. And then they show a sort of close up image on him. And I can see the sort of curled up hair. And I can see the sort of like darkened eyes. And I am thinking to myself, oh, I fucking know who they're teasing here. I fucking know who they're teasing here. Absolutely, they were teasing the Joker in this scene. Abso-fucking-lutely. And ever since this movie was announced, and ever since the hype to this movie was building up, people were wondering, will they do the Joker in this universe? Who should play the Joker in this universe? Personally, I didn't recognize the voice of whoever this actor was doing the Joker for this. I've heard rumors of people saying it's the guy from the Eternals. There was the whole thing where, like, his brother on like Facebook or something said like, "Yep, my brother's playing the Joker," yada yada yada, stuff like that. But I mean, I think he deleted that post, so who knows if it's true? Maybe he might have just been bullshitting with people. But I am interested to see and find out more about who this potential new Joker is going to be. Is it too soon to have another Joker come into the fray after we just had Joaquin Phoenix, and then even before that, Jared Leto? And even before that, Cameron Monaghan, which very underrated Joker, even though they never called him that. But I mean, come on, you look at a picture of him, obviously it's Joker. But yeah, I thought that was a really awesome little tease there at the end for maybe some future stuff where we could see Riddler and Joker team up. Obviously, towards the end of the movie, we also had Penguin's tease of like him taking control of the city now that Carmine Falcone is out of the picture, and I will say this is very interesting because I do remember this was a pretty big thing. People were like hyping up towards the release of this movie the first time around when we thought it was coming in 2021. But after that first trailer came out and subsequent more little tidbits of news came out, people were hyped because they thought there was going to be some aspect of the Court of Owls in this. We got absolutely no teases of the Court of Owls. I mean, one of the cards that Riddler gave him had an owl on it. That was the closest we got to a Court of Owls tease. I'm not saying it isn't going to happen. I'm just saying maybe it'll probably happen even further down the line. But yeah, I know a lot of people were probably excited to maybe see some sort of reveal of the Court of Owls. Obviously, that didn't happen. But here's hoping for the future. But I guess to end this, obviously, let me know in the comment section below what your favorite Batman movie is, and let me know what you guys thought of this movie. But I guess to end this perfectly, I will give you guys my top 3 favorite Batman movies of all time now that I've seen this one. So number 1 is obviously going to be The Dark Knight. There is no doubt about that. I have a feeling it's going to be a very, very difficult uphill climb for anybody to try to beat The Dark Knight as my favorite Batman film. I've just watched it so many times. There's so much great stuff about it, and honestly, the more times I watch it, the more interesting details that I like find about it, like every single time, whether it be a character motivation, a background detail, stuff like that. I think it's great. So that's my number 1. My second favorite Batman movie of all time is Matt Reeves' The Batman. You heard it here first. It's my second favorite Batman movie of all time. I love it. It's fucking awesome. I'm definitely going to try and own it as soon as it comes out on Blu-ray, DVD, whatever, what have you. So yeah, I love that. And then my third favorite Batman movie is Batman 1989. I think it's very great, a very interesting introduction to the character. Jack Nicholson's Joker is just so campy and yet so menacing at the same time. And I think all 3 films have their great things that they have about them. And obviously that's why they're my top 3. But let me know in the comment section below what you guys thought of The Batman, and let me know what your favorite Batman movie is down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later.